I can hear them pounding on the walls. All the wails and calls and hunger for the blood and brain. Ribs showing, hands clawed, such a mass, a swarm. I hear them crowding at the gate. All the anger, all the need, all the self-hate, all the wrists bleeding and the thighs, such a crowd, hollow-eyed. I hear them scratching at the drains, shuffling in their rooms, scaring all the suits, all the helmets and the jackboots, taking it to the head and to the heart. I hear them struggle with the doubt, with the fear, with the not knowing how. Yet, fence them out all you can. These young, they will overrun you soon. Hello. That portent of doom. That was a poem called They're Coming to Get You. Welcome to Poetry Show number 22. And a special Last Valentine special. Last Valentine plus zombies. A few years ago, I don't know why, I had on a whim, I challenged a bunch of friends to write a poem with the title The Last Valentine, or Last Valentine, or A Last Valentine, whichever you want to make of it, Last Valentine. And I wrote a few to go with it. And I thought it might be fun to get some of those out and see how they sound. Glad to say a number of friends wrote some for me too. And so we're going to do some of those, plus a couple of zombie things, and have a few whimsical, scatty, fun, hopefully light-hearted pieces too. So hello, thank you for joining me. It's always the case that I can't necessarily tell who's watching, if anybody's watching. So if you fancy writing a message, you're very welcome to. Let me know that you're there. Ah, Saz, hello darling. So, Last Valentine. God, can hardly remember it. This is one called The Last Valentine. Who sent it will remain a mystery. When it was delivered to him in his bed, he wondered who it had come from, found a question mark instead, and a wish that he would recover soon, to embrace his life and live again, to think of me perhaps at moments in my innocence and pain. That before and even as I lost it all, my love for him was me at my best, as I sent him what I could, my heart, with the row of X's across his chest. The Last Valentine. How are you doing through it all? I wonder if any of you have been needled yet. I know that we've had our promise of a jab at some point. We'll see. He was a bird. He knew he was a bird, even if he had no wings, and felt the weight of overcoats and age and other things, even though he found himself at times snared within a trap and limed. He knew him not the trap, nor the age or weight, just things he lived with. And he was a bird. She was a fish. She knew she was a fish, even if she had no tail or no fin or luminescent scale, but walked with trudges, limped along a track, or dangled, sometimes hitched upon a nail, though she found herself too often basting in an oven dish, left to soften. She knew her not the cooked, nor the nail or hooked, just things she lived with, and she was a fish. Who knew? Now, a departure in that this isn't poetry, this isn't a poem, this is a flash fiction. But it begins the promise, satisfying the promise of zombies. So a short piece of fiction called Mindless. Alternatively, perhaps a better title, No Mind. They eat brains. Of course they do. You know that. You've seen them. Fingers into eye sockets, one hand pulling down, one pulling up. They flip the lid like Tupperware. What you don't know is that what they chase, what they detect, isn't movement, isn't sound. It's brain activity, thought, panic, fear. So here I am, trapped in my meditation room, with one of them roaming my house. And since I have no means to lock the door beyond a yoga mat, I am assuming the lotus position and emptying my mind. I am still. Breath slows, becomes imperceptible. Air floating in, out. Heart softens to the gentlest murmur. Thoughts tick, 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 to a stop. It is not unconsciousness. In fact, the opposite. Sights, sounds, sensations are there, heightened even, but not thought on. Details, precise, vivid, detached. No mind. It enters the room. I see it. It means nothing. I am detached, still, in body, in mind. I know it is working. I'm invisible. It senses nothing of me. No mind. Sight, smell, sound are intense, vivid, deep shades of grey, putrefaction beneath the skin, an eruption of maggots, powdered veins, the deep wheeze of graves in the air, the soft mulch of rotten meat on the floor. No mind, it cannot see me, no mind. Breath deepens, stillness deepens, vision expands, atoms and molecules, lines of connection. I see through skin, through bone, through walls, all is connected. I see through the back of my skull and down, through lungs, through guts, my base chakra, up to the planets and stars. No mind, just light. My brain is ablaze. I see all things. I see through to nirvana, to enlightenment, to non-being. I see every zombie in the world looking at me. Hope you've eaten. No mind. Last Valentine. Last Valentine, this fella asked me to write a poem with that title. I thought I'd give it a go, even if it did seem a bit trite. But it did bring to mind that last Valentine, brought it back with bite, which just goes to show how a £1.99 piece of tacky art kept in a drawer can leave you floored. Last Valentine. I got heaps and heaps. Of course, we all got it, didn't we? Yes. There's a folk tale that this next poem is based on, of the sort in which a young fella meets another worldly woman. Perhaps she's a mermaid, or out of a lake, or from the hills. And of course she makes takes some promises from him that if he abides by, she'll stay with him. This particular promise she kept was that her husband would never look within a basket made of wicker. Of course he did. And he saw nothing inside it. And of course she knew. And of course she left. So this poem is based upon that. The Wicker Basket. You looked inside the basket. I'm glad that you did. Can you tell me what you saw inside? Or was that hid from you? You say it was empty. That, to me, is a sorrow. Now I see no hope. For us, tomorrow or any day. You would look again. It is too late. Though this was never about time, must I state this some other way? I forbade you to look, and yet you did. But more. You saw nothing, where nothing was hid. Magical, mystical ways, so hard to understand sometimes. The ghost lover. Returning from the dripping grave, her lover lost, with hungry heart at night came haunting round her bed. She did not cry, she did not run, but called the exorcist instead. Sometimes it's important to know the right thing to do. Special guest in the moment. First this one. So it's called Friends and Lovers Who Will Tell Their Stories. I keep those closest to me at my furthest reach, and only those far from me do I let approach. These are they who will tell their story. The man who carried a star inside, the woman who carried the night, the man who was moulded by people, the woman who made her own friends, the man of little or no consequence, the woman who turned fate, the man who pushed his dream aside to be the dream of others, the woman who held her breath all her life, the man who raked his heart every Sunday, the woman who had no face until she cried, the man who was himself when he wasn't there, the woman who gave herself away, the man who trod water, the woman who ran out of touch, the man with no possessive tense, the woman who could not live with her head, the man who heard the world too softly, the woman who sharpened the world's edge, the man who, losing his children, became a child, the woman who could not give birth to herself, the man who needed quiet to be heard, the woman who said no to too much, the boy who lived for 60 years enclosed in a manhood, the woman who lived 90 years dressed as a girl. I keep those closest to me at my furthest reach. You? So, often in these readings, I'm taking a few moments to read from a friend's book or from their published poetry in lieu of having a special guest. And today I've chosen a friend called Jon Madge, from his book, The Death of the Author, published by GUG Press again. You might remember they published the London Spoken Word Anthology. The quote on the back is, "The birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author." So I hope Jon's safe and well and happy where he is, living in Amsterdam, I believe. And the funny thing about this is it's a choose your own adventure poetry collection. You may have grown up with these, I certainly did, where you'd read a paragraph or a page and at the end there would be options to continue the story, and you turn to the correct page to continue the story depending on what your choice was, and it could be a different story every time you read it. So we'll see how far we can get through this. Now, if you can, I'll read out the options. I want you to think the options to me so I know which way to go. We start, of course, on page 1, which is called The Body. And look, bit of concrete there. There is the outlines of a body on the page. It goes like this. It lies there. The body of the author, marvellous and still and splendidly unmoving, as if dead even in memory. No one is around to weep, and there is nothing in the room but the mystery. Who is responsible for the death of the author? To call the police, turn to page 2. To search this room, turn to page 5. To go to the next room, turn the page to 20. So I'm listening for your suggestion. Oh, sorry, page 5. Okay. We're going to search the room. On the shelf, a bowl. The shelf is all that's of note, in this room at least. To look in the bowl, turn to page 8. To go to the next room, turn page to... You want to look in the bowl? Okay. Page 8. There's a note inside. It says, I have moved your plums so that they'll last longer. I hated the thought of them going bad. I'm trying to be a better housemate. The options now. To go back to the body, turn to page 1. To look for the plums in the kitchen, turn to page 20. We don't want to go back to the body. We've been there before. Okay, and we'll carry on into the kitchen on page 20. You're in the kitchen. Good. Why not take a look in the refrigerator? Do we go back to the body? Do we try the next door? Or do we look in the refrigerator? Refrigerator door, what's it? Oh, refrigerator, okay. That's what you want. You sure? Okay. Inside the refrigerator. People are not good to themselves. There's a can in the refrigerator. A bargain can of budget tuna. And an empty bowl for plums. Unopened, the can doesn't need to be there. How much of the world doesn't? This wretch kept an unopened can in this humming, buzzing box. He gave the box a purpose where he had none. No note, no bowl, no one left to eat from the can. People are not good to themselves. Now, how much time do we have? We have a little bit of time, maybe another option or two. The options now are: I have to call the police, turn to page 2. To close the refrigerator, turn to page 7. Close the refrigerator, well, yes, can't leave it open. Page 7, okay. What's that on the floor? What's that on the floor? You bend to look closer. It's a sticky trail. To follow the trail, turn to page 4. To stand up and ignore it, turn to page 20. You want to follow the trail? You sure? Not go... Okay. Yeah, trail? Okay. Welcome, traveller. The hallway. Welcome to be. There like door yourself into sticky and find it trail coats you. Following look hallway. Taste switch skylight. The might would hallway. It to juice in brackets. Like you are traveller at. Plum a the. Curious. To search the coats, take to page 6. To look at the door, turn to page 16. To look at the skylight, turn to page 17. To go back to the kitchen, turn to 20. What, the skylight? We've not seen the skylight before. Let's have a look. Quick, quick. Here we are, looking at the skylight. Looking up at the sky. You look up at the skylight and you start to frown, as above you a gigantic shape tumbles down, its pale white as bone and brimming with teeth which part on approach to you. Underneath you stand there dumbstruck and frozen with fear as the terrifying osseous creature draws near, and your last thought as it blocks out the stars is, of all possible deaths, is this the bizarrest? You have no choice. Turn to page 10. After the skylight. One day a man fell through a skylight, only he was beneath it beforehand. So one day this woman jumps upwards through a skylight, only she didn't do it voluntarily. Right, so one day this dog is pulled upwards through a skylight against its will, only it wasn't a dog and there's been no talk of who did the pulling. Here we go. Ready? Yes, good. One day a person got pulled upwards through a skylight by a terrible monster to the certain and horrible death. You were eaten by a monster made of bone. The end. I wonder how many alternative endings there are to that. Choose Your Own Adventure poetry collection, The Death of the Author by Jon Madge, published by GUG. And wherever you are, John, I hope you're well. Back to me. This is a short piece called, well, a piece of many voices called The Bridge Builders. It is precarious. Don't look down. I've got ya. Have you got me? Belt and braces. Here comes wood. Another plank. Thanks. I'm placing this one. Nails. Here's more. Is that secure? It nearly is. I'm going forward. Pass the hammer. Mallet or claw. Pull me in. I'm going back. Yes, take a break. I'm looking for a purchase point. Pass me a plank. It's coming. And a few more found. Remember, don't look down. It is precarious. More planks coming then. Where do they find them? They pull 'em up from bridges built behind. So no way back. Nope, only forward. Here, I'll let you through. Thanks. I'm new. What are we doing? Building bridges forward out of wood we've pulled from bridges built behind. Across the gap, across the void. across the sky, the heavens. Here, have a go. Hammer this plank secure upon this board we've nailed before. Don't look down, mind, it is precarious. Yes, thanks. So, do we know what's actually down below? Well, truth is, young pup, we don't actually know what it is that's holding us up. The bridge builders. How many more have I for you? Just three, I think. Yes. This was one was written on a request by a friend. He said he enjoyed what I write, and he asked me to write on a particular theme, and I did, and very pleased to know that the family enjoyed it greatly. And I called it Because He Is of Starlight Made. I had a thought. A man among the mountains, running with the wind, a gentle man. He held a bush of roses in his hand. Along the higher roads my thought, the steps, the echoes leaping from the mountain walls, the shards and pebbles swept, the swaying of the flower heads, the heave of his exertion, red and wet, the flying of his sweat to feed the river's bed. I had a thought, I thought he'd hear, I thought I felt him passing near, I thought I felt a tender thorn pull at my arm, and I was caught, and I was running too amongst the mountains. I was echo on the run, I was running open as a rose towards the sun. My heart still ran to find him, stood in pause. The sun arose behind, I sought to burn his face upon my mind, and as a thought to hold this gentle man, the harmony within, the peace, the wind of his passing on my skin. I stood alone, a man amongst the mountains, running out of wind, an only man, and held a single rose within my hand. Something of the effect we have on each other in passing, in seeing them, thinking of them, imagining them, and then gone. And this thing, small thing, this frail thing of beauty that they leave us with. I don't think I've read this one ever before. It's one of those list poems. That people love so much. I'm not so sure if I do like them, but even so, I've found myself writing one. I wonder how well it works. Let's see. It's called Filed. And it's kind of about those awkward, telling, penetrating questions that you might sometimes be asked, or you might sometimes wish you were asked. Filed. I'll file that with those questions not to be asked unless, 1, you have plenty of room, 2, you have plenty of time, 3, you can run fast, 4, you have spread plastic sheeting on the floor and on the walls, 6, you can stand the sight of blood, 7, mine or yours. I'll file that with the questions not to be asked, unless you can bear to be disappointed. You are sure you want an answer. 10, you're good at catching. 11, you have some kind of person pump at hand capable of reinflating someone. 12, you're handy with a pin. Now, I'll file that with those questions not to be asked, unless... 13, you can instantly learn an otherwise incomprehensible language never spoken before. 14, I am held. 15, I am no longer held. 16, I have had plenty of water to drink. 17, and sleep. 18, and I know that you love me. 19, but not enough to be hurt. I'll file that with those questions not to be asked, unless 20, we have a written understanding that while it is likely that something of me will remain, or at least return at some point, it is also likely that I shall largely disappear, dissolve, convolute, twist, or be otherwise rendered apart, replaced by the gods know what, be it benign or hostile, or in any other ways helpless and without self-determination. 21, you have faith in a deeper magic. One last one, which brings us back to our theme of the Last Valentine and zombies. Thank you very much for listening. I say I don't know how many of you are out there, but I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks very much. I'll be doing some more day after tomorrow. Different theme, different bunch. Until then, I hope you stay well. I'll put the set list onto the comments, and the video will be on the timeline afterwards. So as I say, our theme today was the Last Valentine and zombies, and this one's called The Last Valentine in 3D. The outbreak grew from 1 or 2 to, well, many more. Both of us saw the ravening horde, and when you got bit, well, it hit me quite hard, so I got you this card. I know you can't read. Well, not now you've stopped bleeding. And well, more than that, since I've got you trapped behind the bathroom door, I just want to say, before I open up to you again, that I really can't cope with the pain of your being walking dead. And that since it is St. Valentine's Day and we did have a date, I really wouldn't mind if, at the end, you ate my heart, because it's yours. I surrender it to your ravenous jaws by way of a first kiss. I never thought anyone would want me like this, or indeed that you could ever be mine, my one and only, first and last Valentine.